Hello world, Nintendo Switch 2 has been announced only a couple of days ago, but now on the internet there's a whole wave of negativity. A lot of people are just going crazy about the prices, and like it's not clear whether it's a good announcement or no, because it felt like after the first impressions after the this presentation Nintendo Direct, it felt like everyone was left like on a high note. Everyone was happy with it, and everyone was kind of going to get it, like regardless. But after like a couple of days now, after this hype is kind of sort of going down, and people are just rationalizing everything, it it kind of feels like the biggest issue, of course, is the price, but also there are some other issues as well. Yeah, it is there. We're gonna talk about it in this video. I'm here to do that, and also I will tell you about my one and the biggest reason to get this console, regardless of price or whatever, uh, like anything else. Just this one reason, it is that significant to me to get this console no matter what. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned and let's just start the discussion. Alright, so Nintendo announced Nintendo Switch 2. I had the video with my kind of hopes and beliefs about this system, and I gotta say, in most of the parts, they really did fulfill all of my desires, because and they kind of made even more than I thought they would, because let's start with the system, the console itself. The main thing for me was, of course, the screen, because it's like the biggest thing, the most important thing in a handheld console, and this 720p console screen was sort of outdated nowadays, because as you can see right here, I got my ROG Ally X, and I know that it's a whole different universe type of system. It's way more expensive than a regular Nintendo Switch or even the Nintendo Switch OLED. But anyways, after you use something like that, which is 1080p, and even with a higher refresh rate, this particular one got 120, and that just after that, Nintendo Switch's screen feels outdated. And even though I didn't have much problems with my Nintendo Switch OLED, I really loved the screen. And all being it being OLED is just makes it much better. But still, 720 nowadays is kind of outdated. But when it comes to the hardware of the original Nintendo Switch, it kind of made sense, because it just to play and to sort of perform all of these games, and we're not even talking about the high-end games, just like the Nintendo exclusives or whatever, you still need much better hardware than the original Nintendo Switch used to have. So now we are moving to another thing that they changed, of course, the hardware. So they kind of solved that problem as well. Maybe they did even more than regular Nintendo, that's important here, Nintendo user needed at this point. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. Yeah, so screen now 1080p, awesome. I was blown away. I was so happy when they announced it. I was watching this Nintendo Direct live, so yeah, I felt all of these emotions right there on the stream, and it was really good. So 1080p, awesome. But when they announced a 120 hertz refresh rate screen, that was something like, something that kind of shook me off, because what, 120 hertz from Nintendo, really? I was surprised. I didn't expect it at all. It wasn't in my expectations, like nothing like that. So yeah, that was a point where they even, uh, surprised me. I wasn't expecting it at all. So 120 hertz screen, 1080p, like it sounded like a dream to me. And yeah, that was probably the best part of this presentation. Real quick on the Joy-Cons, now they are magnetically attached to the system, and that's okay with me as long as they are not drifting, as long as they are um, not that sort of clicky. If they are attaching good and they're not separating that easily, like they used to do with the previous system, like you always had that sort of click, and I didn't really like that. But now it seems like they changed it. It seems like, at least from all the reviews that we've seen already there on the web, it seems like it's all good with it. So that's cool. That's cool. I really like the new attachment, Joy-Cons attachment system. It was nice. The video games, probably the biggest reason to get Nintendo's system. Probably the biggest reason why so many people all over the world love Nintendo and Nintendo's exclusives. They're Nintendo's exclusives, their games. They showed us Mario Kart, new Mario Kart game, Mario Kart World, and that game looks just awesome. It looks incredible, good from every angle that you look at it. So I'm really waiting for this game, even though I've almost never played Mario Kart that much. I just didn't have the opportunity to, I would say. Even though I have the Nintendo Switch for many years now, but just couldn't get my hands on it. But now I'm for sure getting the package with Mario Kart World and playing it day one. Absolutely. So the game looks awesome. Open world Mario Kart. 24 players as far as I remember on one map. It looks just awesome, so cool. So it's probably going to be one of the biggest hits of Nintendo, like the previous Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game. So there's no actual sort of debate in that, I guess. The next biggest game for me was Donkey Kong. I actually forgot the name of it, but just basically he's a miner. He's doing all these minings there, and you got a sort of an open world with a bunch of secrets. Like you can destruct like anything that you want, destroy all of the world, and it looks so good. It looks really, really good. I think the potential in this game is even bigger when it was with Mario Odyssey. And I know that there's a lot of diehard fans of Mario Odyssey, but I think this Donkey Kong game could be even better. It looks that good, and especially with the new hardware of Nintendo Switch, which is really great. It looks like, at least, we don't have the exact tests, but it looks like it's really, really great. Yeah, the game should be awesome, and I'm absolutely waiting. This is low-key the most anticipated game of Nintendo's, at least from what they already announced. At least from that, even more than Mario Kart, because with Mario Kart you already sort of know what to expect, and with Donkey Kong you do not know that much because it's a whole new game in a new genre, even though with the already well-known character. Then there's also with some games like Metroid Prime 4, as far as I remember, and these are not that interesting for us because they have already been announced a long time ago, and Metroid Prime even coming out on the original Nintendo Switch, so it's sort of not about Nintendo Switch 2, right? Not particularly. So even though the game looks awesome, 4K, 60 hertz, 1080p, 120 is incredible, right? We couldn't even think of something like that just a little time ago, and now we got it on Nintendo's handheld device. That's awesome, right? Alright, and now let's move on to the potential problems of this console. First and foremost, of course, its price and the hardware that it comes with. We got, and they've already announced, some of the high-end games like AAA the latest games like Cyberpunk 2077, like Hogwarts Legacy. Even though we had Hogwarts Legacy before, now we have it, I guess, with like a real deal Hogwarts Legacy, not just the Nintendo edition sort of, but the real from the older, bigger systems coming port on Nintendo Switch 2, and it gotta be better, much better than the previous version that was on Nintendo Switch. And still, we got all these games, even the Borderlands 4, which is not even yet released, is already announced for Nintendo Switch 2. So it's kind of they kind of showed us that all of the multi-platform, like all of the AAA third-party games, will be coming on Nintendo Switch 2. And here's my question here: like, why do we even need that on Nintendo Switch 2, especially when it comes with the cost of price? Because now, I guess, mostly because of this high-end hardware, we sort of need to pay more. $450 for a base version of console, and $499 with a pack with Mario Kart World. Okay, let's go with $450. $450 is, for some reasons and for some people, might not be that much, because if you are comparing $450 to something like this, which is ROG Ally X, and yes, its original price is $800, but you can barely find it new in some other countries than USA for like 900,000, you know. And even though it's a whole different system with a whole different hardware and different capabilities and different, like, you know, audience, still there are some people who pay for that, like me. Even though I paid mostly for it just to make some videos and all this stuff, content on it, even though I didn't do much, I'm going to. I mean, I didn't do much yet, but I'm going to do more. The original Nintendo Switch was one of the best-selling systems ever in the history. And the biggest reason was, of course, the price and its availability for the wide audience. You know, because when some parents or grandparents buy their kids or grandkids some presents for, like, I don't know, for holidays or whatever, of course it's much easier to get something for like $200, $300. It was much easier. I think the Nintendo Switch Lite was for something under $200, and yeah, that's a good deal. But when it comes to $450, and we got PS5 for $450, of course I know, because I'm always like learning stuff about it. I'm always in that ecosystem, and I know how handhelds work. I know that handheld and your big console with the same sort of hardware and performance can't cost, just simply cannot cost the same. Handheld will always be much, and probably much more expensive. So I understand that, but for someone who is not that interested in technology, gaming, all of these devices, they would not be. And they see PS5 for $450 or $500, and they see Nintendo Switch 2, even though now they presenting it then like a less than a Happy Meal sort of toy, and more like a real deal console for big boys. Still, I think for the widest audience, there will be something like, yo, I see PS5 and it's a buffier, it's a bigger console, and it's at the same or almost at the same price. It's better to get it. So I don't know, but I feel like that's a big point there. And even not talking like that, I know that $450 is a lot. I think that like $350 or $399 would be just perfect price for Nintendo Switch 2. with the all the same stuff that it got with the hardware and everything. So there's that. But I don't know, guys. Let me know, what do you think about the price? Will you get it? I will. And the biggest reason for me to get this console, of course, and I don't know why not many people talking about it, but of course it will be this game right here. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, guys, of course. I bought this game almost at its launch, even though I was doing my final exams, my diploma, my like everything, and still I get this game. I got this game at that time, at the time of its launch, and I tried to play it on my Nintendo Switch OLED, and I didn't like the performance. I'm gonna be real, I didn't like it, and I even at that point, even it was like several years ago now, I decided to wait. I decided to wait because I sort of knew that we're gonna get the patch for Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever it was going to be, the next system. I mean, the name of it. I knew that we was gonna get the patch, and we had to get the update for this game, and it had to look better on the new Nintendo system, and I was so glad that this was the coolest point for me after the screen and refresh rate on that presentation. When I saw the updates for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I was blown away. I was like, yes, it was so cool to see, to have it, and now it is really cool. So, and especially that we are getting it day one on the launch of the console. Guys, at this point in particular, just sold me the console. You know, even with that price and everything, just because Tears of the Kingdom on the original Nintendo Switch does not perform good. Okay, we gotta admit it. And I feel sorry for people who already completed the game, because I didn't. I just started the game. I played, I think, like a couple of hours. And if you know anything about Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom, you know that a couple of hours is just simply drop in the ocean, is nothing when it comes to these games. And I'm basically brand new to it. I can play the whole game with the higher specs, and the specs are just spectacular. I'm not gonna lie, guys. 1080p, 60 FPS is gonna be awesome. And from everything what I've seen, people already played like a 5 minutes or whatever they could at these stands, Nintendo stands. There was some exclusive stuff for bloggers and stuff. Everyone's saying that all of these games, like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, looked awesome. There was no drops in terms of FPS drops. Everything looked smooth and awesome. So that's great, because I didn't like how Tears of the Kingdom... I finished Breath of the Wild on the original Nintendo Switch, and I was okay with it. It looked really good. It played really good, even though with 30 FPS and 720p, I didn't feel any bad when I was finishing this game. Was when I was playing this game. It was awesome. It was awesome. My favorite video game, alongside with The Last of Us, for sure. So I love it that much. And Tears of the Kingdom was that much of a weighted game for me. It was a special thing, and I just didn't want to ruin my experience and emotions and all of this stuff when it came to that game. So I decided to wait, and I'm glad that I did. Now we got less than 2 months until of the launch of Nintendo Switch 2, and I just can't wait. The biggest issue with the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on base original Nintendo Switch for me was this sort of motion blur thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know why not many people talking about it. But for me, it was a big issue. It looked so bad. Your image wasn't crispy. Even in 720, it wasn't crispy. It was like soapy, blurry. I didn't love it at all. and that is the reason why I waited for this patch. And okay, world, so this was my biggest reason to get Nintendo Switch 2, and let me know what do you think about it. Let me know why, if you're not going to get the Switch 2, let me know why, and if you are going to get the Switch 2, then let me know why. Or maybe the price is okay for you, maybe the games are the main reason for you to get this console, or maybe you have some other reason like I did. And or if you're not getting, then let me know about the reason as well. Of course, I'm very interested in reading your comments. I will reply to all of you guys as usual. So yeah, let's just have the discussion and let me know about your thoughts. Goodbye, world. See you in the next one.